I made a boo-boo. I did not record video for this episode, so you're not going to see my face or my guest, but you'll get to meet them. And before we even do, it is YDD. It is an episode of You'll Die Trying that pulls back the curtain and takes down the walls brick by brick and exposes the hearts of those caring for those you love most. It is episode 197, and I have some show announcements to make. July the 4th. 4th of July, Independence Day. Yes, America's Independence Day is celebrated this day, and we will be celebrating in Warrenburg, North Carolina, with the first annual Liberty Fest. Liberty Fest is going to be money and awareness, money for the Wounded Warrior Project and other veteran-focused nonprofits which take care of those who have sacrificed so much for us. What better day to have a party than on Independence Day? You can find out more about that show and of course, our show on September the 4th in East Texas at Texas Motorplex at NathanMorrisMusic.com. Get tickets, get swag. Speaking of swag, brand new merch. Yep, Nathan merch. That's me, third person. Villain releases June the 7th. I'm really excited about that song. And I was in Photoshop prison. I'll give you a little bit of an update on that. If you haven't been following me on all the socials at NathanMorrisMusic, you probably didn't see that I dangled a carrot a couple weeks before, and I said, hey, don't believe everything you see or hear or read. Kind of do your own research, do your own digging. I told you, I warned you. A lot of you didn't listen, and a lot of you fell victim to what I think a lot of us do, and it's thinking surface. Think deeper. Don't judge. Be slow to judge, slow to anger, slow to be hateful. Actually, don't be hateful at all. Be kind and inclusive. And Villain is about that. You can paint me any way you wish, in which you want. You can tell whatever version of the story you wish about me. It shouldn't rather affect me, what I think about myself. What you think about yourself is most important. That's what Villain is about. It is available for pre-save. You get that in the description and the show notes below, which I would appreciate. When you click that little button, the pre-save button, you have no idea what it does. Not only does it tell the algorithm, I like Nathan, I want to get his stuff, but it also really propels my music and career. And we have exclusive Villain merch available. Right now, I will click it, meaning I will give you the link to click in the show notes. Okay, there is all your homework. Let's dive in. I guess you can call this person the OG, the original gangster of Mortician talk, but not T-O-K, T-A-L-K. This individual has been doing it long before all of us. Been doing it long before I even got my first stubble on my chin. She showed up before and continued to, even with rocks, even with people not being kind, not being supportive per se, but that's not what this is about. It is about the professionalism that is Kari the Mortician. Kari is an incredible individual. She shoots it straight. I was a few minutes late to the podcast, which going from Central to Eastern, come on, give me a break. Tough. She was graceful, she was kind, and wow, she is pretty awesome and has a really good outlook on this life. And I met her a few years ago, and I was excited to sit down with her, and I'm excited for you to hear this little exchange. You always want to leave with a nugget, and I left with a few. Without further ado, my friends, this is Kari the Mortician.
Are you able to be pretty stationary?
I'm pretty stationary. I was traveling a little more for a while back when I was married and I could leave the kids with him and stuff and trying to kind of build whatever was going to become of Kari the Mortician and stuff. But it got to the point, I mean, like, I can only spend so much money trying to do it, and YouTube has demonetized everything. So I don't make hardly crap doing any of the social media. So I've tried to pick and play and try and build, and it's just not producing, a lot, especially the YouTube like it used to. I mean, I'm making probably less than a quarter of what I used to make. So being able to do a lot of traveling for video and stuff, I just don't do it as much anymore. I do a little bit, but just not like
What
I used
happened
to.
with the
So
with the YouTube? Is it just
we can't figure it out. Ron Carlson from Faces of the Forgotten, and I really started talking about it because he's been talking to other people as well. It's weird, once you get over, like, the 100,000, you would think you would monetize more, and boom, they chuck you down. So he had a friend who has like 200 and some thousand subscribers, and he created another account. He would post the same video on both accounts, and he would make 4 times as much on the one that only had like 15,000 subscribers as opposed to his 2,000. He said it's a total YouTube thing. He said they're supporting small people, trying to get them to build, and then they squash you. So yeah, I mean, like at the most during COVID, obviously was a beautiful time for the social media world in terms of income, and was making good money, and thought, oh my God, if this continued, like, holy crap. No, right down. I mean, if I make like $30, $40 a video tops, I'm happy. And that's on a really good month. It's just weird. It's all weird. And like Instagram, you used to be able to get a little bit from Reels. I can't get anything out of Instagram anymore. I get like $100 a month now out of Facebook, and I finally got like $45 out of TikTok, but I don't spend like a ton of time. I don't have a ton of time. So that's part of the problem too, is I don't cultivate it as much as I probably could or should. So yeah, it's a toss up. Every other week I'm like, oh, I'm gonna quit all this, and then I
That's amazing.
don't. And
I think I quit 16 times yesterday alone.
yeah, it is a hard road to live. And you know, you get so many people that want to do it, and you have to be really honest that, hey, this is not like this is not assured salary and an income and stuff. I had a guy call me. Well, it was through somebody else, and they're like, "Hey, will you talk to my friend's son? He's 17. He wants to be an influencer in a YouTube, and that is his only goal to do after he graduates high school." And I was like, "Yep, let's go." So the dad sat in with us, and the kid was on. And I said, "Well, so what's your idea for your?" And he's like, "Just my everyday life and me gaming and stuff." And I'm like, and he said, "That's it." And I was like, buddy, I'm gonna be real honest with you. I said there are about 2 million kids out there gaming, and you know, about a 0.5% of them are going to make a decent amount at it. And if you do not have some kind of a shtick or a unique spin to you, you are drowned out in the sea. And unfortunately, I said you could go viral, you know, prove me wrong, but I would not plan that as your life income source, especially at your age. So, you know, maybe do it on the side, see what happens, but it's not really a plan for an income source unless you have a seriously good like thing you're going for, which is hard to find now because it feels like everything's been done at this point when it comes to social media and ideas and
Yeah,
hobbies and areas and stuff.
you're absolutely right. Does it deflate you, or you seem, and this is a great quality, by the way, because I love it. You're not, when we message back and forth or when we interact, it's direct. A lot of people like to tiptoe around stuff or put glitter on stuff when there's not even a requirement to do so. But does it deflate you in this world of, hey, I really enjoy putting out content that I believe in, i.e., in the funeral profession, and it's not hitting like it used to? Or is it something that's just another direct, matter of fact thing?
I think that it still hits the same people I want it to hit. What deflates me is the people that try and call me something I'm not. And that frustrates me because I try to be as absolute genuine. That's what most people will say. Like, if you meet me in person, like this is me all the time. I just curse less when I'm on camera or recording.
You and I are going to be best
Um,
friends then
is
if you like to make cuss words up.
But I am just kind of me every day. That's like Grant, you know, Grant, and then from my funeral home stories or whatever that I'm blanking on the name, but you know, like we did a show together and then we met in person and it's the exact same vibe, whether we're have a camera recording, whether we don't. It's just nice to be who I am so I don't have to keep up a facade. I am more poised. I feel like a little bit. I choose choiced words when I'm speaking, especially doing my YouTubes, because I don't want to talk business wise. I like to use just simpler words just because I want it to relate to everyone. It's like if I'm listening to something to do with, I don't know, like astrophysics, if you're talking in astrophysics speak, I'm gonna have to figure out what your words are you're saying to be able to even understand what you're saying. And so I don't want people to not understand or to feel lost in what I'm trying to connotate to them. And so I try and speak everyday talk. If I get into embalming, which I don't get into like deep into embalming, I don't use super technical terms. I don't get into chemistry. Not my strong suit anyway. So I don't get into all the chemistry. I leave that to like Ben and all of them, you know? And so I try and just stick to my zone and be who I am and be relatable. And I think that's why I've got people who have stuck with me so tightly for this 7+ years I've been on social media is because they feel like they know me and they can relate to me, which is good and bad. Stalker people
Do you
aside, you know?
have you been lucky enough to get one or two? Yeah, me
Oh,
too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, congratulations.
FBI involvement, you know, police call, yeah, some pretty scary, but not scary, feel like controllable, but yet you just don't also
Right.
know what you're getting into. That's my man Josh, he feels more comfortable when I travel if he's with me just because he's like, you just don't know. It could be the most nicest mainstream, seems like the person you don't have to worry about, and that's who maybe tries something or goes too far or whatever because they feel like they know you so much when they really don't, and that's the people you might need to worry about the most. And I'm like, "Nope, you're probably right. The person who wears the crazy hat, probably not the one you need to worry. It's the normal one that you run away from the crazy to, and then they turn out to
Ab
be the serial killer
You're
in the end."
hitting
Kinda thing,
every
like
nail
movie.
around me right now on the head. You're
Yeah.
from, Michigan? Michigan,
And
and how
yeah.
in the world did you say, "Hey, I'm gonna go to mortuary school, or I'm gonna be a funeral director"? What's your story, your first, "That's what I wanna do"?
When I was 16, I needed a job. My mom was an aftercare coordinator at a funeral home, so she helped the families after the deaths and was there for first viewings and everything, and so I got the job, and it was during the pager era where funeral directors had to kinda be tied to their homes a bit more because we didn't have cell phones readily available. We had pagers and didn't have as many answering services, so you had a babysitter at the funeral home, basically, and a lot of times it was maybe a little old lady like Marilyn from next door would walk over and sit at the funeral home for 4 hours and then walk home at night when the funeral director got home. So I worked the evening, shift kind of for till 9 o'clock and then worked visitation if there was visitation, typed on the typewriter, you know, all the documents, then set up chairs and vacuumed and, you know, did all that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of how I started. And went off to college for all these other areas that I wanted to get involved in and realized I sucked at all those areas. So I ended up in psychology, and didn't quite know what I wanted to do with it. Forensic psychology was something that super interests me, but that was like 12 more years of school. And there was no way. I'm not a college person. I don't do well sitting, listening, writing, studying from a book. That's just not how I do. My ADD doesn't allow me to do like I'm all over the place in my brain. So sitting there, I get so bored and am thinking of a million other things. So I wanted something that I could didn't have to go to a bunch more college for, but with psychology, you can't really do much just with your, you know, bachelor's in psychology. And my mom was like, "What about this?" So I tried my apprenticeship and I was hooked after a few weeks and pretty much knew. So then I graduated from my first bachelor's and went to Cincinnati for my mortuary school. And after that, I always thought growing up you had to move away from your hometown or from your home base to be successful. Like I just remember being at home football games, like when I was in elementary school and middle school. And I remember those cool kids who would come home from college with their college clothes and their college hair and just, you know, they were so cool to me. And so I always wanted to be that person who went away and then when come back would be cool and then could go away again. And so I thought, I can't just go back home to work. And I went to work for 2 months. I don't even think it was 2 months in a town in Illinois. And it was a great learning experience. We'll call it that. It was, um, The medical examiners in the town, in their area, take bets on how long someone can last at that funeral home, which doesn't exist anymore. Um, but, it was just a terrible the man that ran it was a horrible human, horrible, horrible man. And so I was there for short-lived, and then I came home, and I was like, "Why did I avoid this? Like, I should be here," and, continued my journey along the way. And so I've worked in about 30 different communities, which sounds bad, but I freelance. So I would go fill in for people when they wanted to go on vacation, and I would go cover their funeral home and then come back home and work and do trade local and then go fill in again other places. And so I covered about a 2 hour kind of radius. And that gave me such a wide scope of the business and good things, bad things, how different places do things, different communities, what different people really desire and want, just down to vehicles that different funeral homes use, from station wagons to hearses to suburban, just all over the place. I only think of that because I got in a car accident and on one of the things and they got hit. I was in the passenger seat, but we were fine. But it was their old blue station wagon, and he was so sad that this thing got totaled out, and that's where my
That
mind goes.
that's
And
RIP
so,
little
just
station wagon. Actually, we had a blue station wagon growing up.
It's just the station wagon life. It was awesome when you could sit in the back and you could
Oh
face
yeah,
backwards. There was like
that was
that
amazing. Now
seat, like
everybody's all a bunch of
that was
sissies. That's where seatbelts and they get car sick.
I we were wild back in the day,
Yeah,
weren't we?
you actually said something that was very so going around all these different funeral homes and free and covering while they're on vacation and so forth. Even if you in the beginning wanted to have and develop like a judgment or wow, that's ridiculous how they do it. Over time, the more that you were bouncing around and seeing, you probably developed more perspective than
Mhm.
perception. And I always talk about that with people. I'm like, have perspective, put yourself in the shoes of the other, be slow to anger, slow to judgment, quick to be compassionate, that kind of thing. And this profession, you've been on social media for far longer than I, is the most incredible profession at caring for total strangers during their most delicate of moments and times and darkest of nights. But their fellow funeral director, uh, wow. Yeah, tell me about if you can, like, moments of where you realized this thing of perspective, if whatever you called it, because I feel like that's what you have, and that's a beautiful thing. And then tell me maybe a moment where you didn't feel that reciprocated, and when you first realized being on social media and the grenades that then followed suit because of, "Hey, I wanna share the
Ooh.
passion I have for this profession."
Yeah, you know, I think when you first start in the business, you once you got your license, you believe you just are ready to go and you know it and you know what people want and how they need it. And going into some of these funeral homes, I'm like, maybe it would work better this way. And they're like, no, this is our community. We pretty much know how it runs. So it took a lot of humbleness, let's say, for me to really have to step back because I started doing that. I had been licensed a while, and but not even a decade at that point. I think maybe, oh, if I had to do the math, I mean 10 years ish, less than 10 years, like 5 years. So I knew a lot. I knew how to do office stuff. I knew how to embalm decently. We're always learning. And that's one thing I think I learned is we don't ever know it, and we always have to be humble enough to learn from someone else. We have to learn from the apprentices. We have to learn from the students. We have to learn from the people who have been licensed 50 years because everybody has something to teach us, good and bad. And I say that a lot that you may work at a funeral home that you hate, but you've learned something there. You've learned one good thing and one bad thing, and you can take it with you somewhere else and move on. And I think I learned a lot that it doesn't have to be my way, and that's a hard pill to swallow because I'm such a control freak, such a, like, insane control freak, because I feel like if I do it, then I know that it's done the way I want, and in my mind, I believe that's the right way, but there's multiple right ways. You can involve a body, and there's so many ways to do it. It's not just one person's way, and I think because that first place I worked in out of mortuary school, He made me embalm every single body a specific way. I had to raise tibials, which are in your shins. I mean, I had to raise just because he thought you needed. And he wouldn't listen to anything I wanted to input. And I think because I got told how to do things and my voice wasn't heard moving forward, I wanted my voice to be heard, which not the best response. But man, it's like a therapy session. I've never even thought of that before until now, but maybe that's where it
I
came
was going
from.
to ask actually,
Um,
and you went there, and I love it. I
yeah,
think it's great to acknowledge
yeah.
those. Yeah.
Self-reflection, man. Wow. But yeah, so I think I learned a lot of, step back and listen. Maybe I don't like that way, or maybe I'm not going to use it, but step back and listen. Every funeral home uses a different computer program, whether it's SRS, whether it's Kraken, which are all funeral home based programs that are created. I'm like, oh, this one's terrible, but I had to use them because I was there. So it gave me the opportunity to try a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. One place I had to put the chairs in the same hole every time. That nook in the carpet, it had to be set a specific way, whether the guy was there or not. It was like, oh, every time I left, I waited for the phone call. Like, what did I do wrong afterwards? Loved working at that funeral home when I'd go fill in, but the anxiety over what did I mess up or what did I not leave exactly how he had it positioned and how he wanted it. And the critique that would come later was hard. So yeah, perspective that you can do it multiple ways and it can be right. You can do it multiple ways and they can all be wrong. Was I think a big thing to learn. And then moving forward later, the social media, it was a long time before I felt a lot of any response from the funeral community. I thought that no funeral directors knew I existed on social media, honestly, for forever. It was just consumers and just everyday viewers. And I think that they were lying in wait watching me somehow. And I was happy with the attention not being on me. And then I would start getting kind of the lash out or, hey, so and so was talking about you, or hey, so and so was talking about you. I'm like, is this freaking middle school? And it feels like it sometimes within our business that it is this weird, gossipy middle school, he said, she said thing. And it's like, you know what? We're adults. Like, if you have something to say about me, come to me. Don't be nice to my face and then talk behind my back. Like, just be direct with me. I received an email, or no, it was a comment on a video recently. And this person was like, stop your lies, stop everything you're saying. You're telling bull. And I said, what am I saying that are lies? Please, like, if I'm saying something that's inaccurate, correct me because, maybe I just don't know. I'm always here to learn. And I think it was a man. He said, well, you're talking about laws as if they're across the country and, stuff. And I said, well, if you've watched any of my content, you will know that repetitively I say, I am talking Michigan law. Every state has your own laws. If you can learn one thing, educate yourself on what the laws are of your state so you know what you are entitled to, what you can do, what's okay for your state. I said, so I don't misdirect, and what I am saying is accurate. And then, of course, his response was, oh, you're making so much money, and the only reason you're doing this is this, and you don't even care. And I'm like, have the day you deserve, and I go away from it. And I think early on, I got really goaded by people. I remember one time I'm sitting in the car in Chicago. We'd just gotten there for a wedding. I was about 1,000 subscribers in. So this is really early. And this person was just going at me. And I finally realized I had just spent an hour and a half of driving time. I was the passenger, going back and forth with this person over nothing. I had given my energy, my time to this person, and I was like, what am I doing? And so I stepped back and I thought, okay, these are sad people, some of them, alone, probably have nobody to talk to. And this is their way to talk to people, is to be negative because they know they'll get a response. And that is their engagement with humans throughout the day, is doing that and being little keyboard people. And I realized how sad individual must be to have that be what they do. And so I decided to respond to people, but okay, thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your take care. Thank you. And I would respond and I would move past, because if you don't engage with them with it, it ends. and they go away. And that's kind of the nice thing. But I know there's people who don't like me in the business, which drives me nuts because I am a people pleaser to the core, like loose sleep over a people pleaser. But I cannot change people's minds about what they want to perceive or think about me. And I have to stand on the ground of who I know I am and the people that do know me personally and have met me and spent time with me and engaged with me, not the people who have never spoke to me who want to say bad things. And I know there's people who have done some really crappy things to other people in this kind of platform that are present in the, kind of public eye, I guess, when you go on social media where there's restraining orders and there's all sorts of things. I'm like, I don't want to even be in that realm. I don't have time or energy for that. I have kids, I have work, I have things I'm actually doing here. So if people have time to do that, good on them. They need to actually have work at their funeral home then, because they obviously don't do enough
You're
calls if that is what they have
you're
time to
right.
do.
I remember some poignant moments as well. It's good that you maybe had that less than 1,000 in, because
Yeah.
this profession is filled with a bunch of people who are, we call them feelers. We want so badly for people to like us. We want so badly for people to connect with and know that we care about
Yes.
them. And we lose sleep over the thought of that not being the case. And then now this is magnified, amplified times hundreds of thousands of people, millions really, whenever the videos and just trip over someone's feed. It's overwhelming. And you're right. I do the same as you. When people throw out that negativity, yesterday, it was really funny. So I have, you know, we've all experienced some major negativity. It's amazing what people you can put on paper. It's amazing what you can say. And then magically there's this parade that follows suit and they're like, that's true. This is true. So I actually, someone was throwing dirt at me yesterday, and I said, and then I clicked on their profile and I saw their company. And so I said, hey, it looks like uh Tree Electronics maybe could use some phone etiquette training. If you all ever would be interested, please, I'd be honored to. And then I said, I'm sorry you're sad. I hope you feel better. And then the other next one is, hey, remember when the government said that UFOs didn't exist forever, and then magically they did? Have a good day. And they probably won't get that because they're anyway. My point is it's sad and scary what can be put out there, and we can't control it. We can't.
Huh.
It's
And
interesting.
when you speak, what kills me is when, like, if I say something generic, someone takes it personal. That's a reflection on them, not me. You don't know I'm talking about you. I'm just saying something. And then there's like a saying about Facebook, like if you take something I say that doesn't have your name in it and you make it about you, that's a you thing. Because you're assuming it's about you. You're not even on my radar. So you go do you and leave me to be unless your name is in my mouth. And that's what drives me nuts is people trying to make anything I do about them. And it's like, if I want it to be about you, I will use your name, I will say your name, and I will call you out, but it's not about you or you or you. It's just a generalization of a group of people or individuals I've talked about. Like I've said, I think there are people that want to stay relevant in this business and they get very attacking others that are on platforms. And I think that's sad. Like, if you want to be putting information out there, then go do it yourself. I don't have time to combat you. I'm going to just stay over here doing my thing. You can go do your thing, but instead you want to spend your time attacking someone else rather than going and putting out information. Like, that's sad. And there is quite a few people who do that within the business. And I think it's just ridiculous. And so I just don't want to give time or energy to them. But if I say something like that, like I just did, there's people who will be like, well, she's talking about me. Well, if you think it's about you, then maybe you're doing something
Amen.
wrong.
Do you I
Go
remember
on.
there was a comment that I got from a fellow funeral professional. She said, and it was about embalming. And of course, you probably have many stories, not only, excuse me, you're doing this wrong or it's done this way, but we don't talk about it. We don't talk about what we
Yeah.
do. That's the most sacred thing in place. And to my response, and I've thought about this time and time again. So I started in 2010, 13 years, and it was the changing for the next 5 of that. It was the slow transition of the guard, and I call it that because it's your 60s, 70s slowly retiring out, dying out, and they
Yep.
bore witness to so much. And during their upbringing and in the profession, they experienced Vietnam and all of these other
Mhm.
horrible moments in our country. And yeah, quite frankly, it was a different time where people, they didn't want to know how someone magically appeared in the casket. They didn't want to hear a word about it. And so they're
No.
saying today, we don't talk about it. I don't think it's, I put myself in it. I give so much grace, but I think they were trying to uh, protect protect someone's grieving
Mhm.
process and their heart. And so by not talking about it, it's protecting them. And so this woman said, we don't talk about it. And so that moment I had this response that excuse me, started this. That's probably why they just were doing what I'm doing. I'm wanting to educate people to make them feel safe and comfortable and making decisions that they feel confident in, just like this woman is trying to protect our heart from possible grief and worry and so forth. So, um, did you
Yeah.
have, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just,
I don't know. I think the same if did she message you on
yeah,
Instagram? Yeah. I think she had a very slow day at the funeral home because I'm guessing it's probably the same woman that messaged me because I had a message almost exactly the same. Hers was phrased, "You are basically like trying to use that you are an educator when what you are doing is wrong and all this stuff, and you're doing it under the guise of saying that you're an educator and stuff." And she was a funeral director, and I said, I'm sorry you feel that way or whatever, but I'm not saying anything salacious. I'm doing nothing for personal gain here. I am just trying to help people feel empowered because I get so many emails from people that are like, my husband was dying and we would watch your videos together and we were able to have conversations. And so when he died, I knew what I wanted and how to walk in there and what to watch for and how to connect with the funeral directors. And I'm like, that's why I do what I do. It's not for the masses, it's for those few people that feel empowered and feel comfortable, are not going to walk in and attack the funeral director like he's done something wrong or she's done something wrong, even though they haven't. It's just to make people feel comfortable, like you said. And um, yeah, for so long, it was not talked about, which is why we have generations of people terrified of our business and what we do, and they've carried questions for 50 years. I get emails that are like, "Hey, I saw this when I was little, and it's been on my mind my whole life. I'm now 80 years old. Like, can you answer this?" And it's like, oh my God.
wow.
You never felt comfortable enough with a single funeral director you've encountered since to ask. So you're on this platform asking me, and now you feel better because I gave you an answer. And people, funeral directors like, man, I connect with families. And I'm like, no, one of my continuing eds I do is about customer experience. And if they felt connected to the funeral director in front of them, they wouldn't have all these questions. And they wouldn't have all these, I wish I would have said, or I wish I would have did, or I wish I could have. They would all be answered at the time. They would be handled at the time. And they're not. It's because people don't feel like they can ask. And that's sad to me. And it's not like we are shoving information down people's throats by talking about it. We are putting the information there if someone is seeking. So if you're not going to just end up on my video about embalming where I talk about it, you're not going to just randomly click on it. It's going to be there because you are Googling when you're searching and you are trying to find that information. And I think that's the misconception. It's not like we are like, hey, here's a dead body. Let me show you what happens. Like, I don't show bodies. I don't, we do things. ethically in that way, and we don't talk specifics about specific individuals and use names and things. We're trying to just, in a general way, help people feel more comfortable with information. And I talked to going to tell you my Taco Bell analogy. This is my favorite thing I've probably ever
Does it
come
have
up
to do
with,
with
and I did
Crunchwrap
it at a
Supreme? Because even then it gets even better.
no, because I can't do dairy, so some of the things at Taco Bell I can't have anymore, which is
That's sad.
sad. Sad. I like the
I
taco
want to hear
pizza.
I want the Taco
Oh,
Bell analogy though.
so I was at a career day, and I had these I had the oldest looking high school seniors I've ever seen, and I even said it to them, and they were 19-year-old seniors, but they were, like, the manliest men. It was the weirdest thing. I was like, "People don't look as old as you at my school." But anyway, so we're talking about in our 15 minutes, we're talking about stuff, and they wanted to know some generals about embalming and stuff, and, so the one guy was like, "Yeah, do you think people really want to know what happens?" And I said and it, like, popped in my mind. I said, "If you went to Taco Bell, would you wanna walk through the back and have them show you a video of where the meat came from, the process it went through, and watch it get put on your taco afterwards?" I'm like, I bet you pretty much don't, because you don't wanna know where that meat's been and where it came through and what's in it, just like a chicken nugget kinda thing from McDonald's. Like, you don't wanna know the whole process. What you want is the taco that you get to eat because it makes you feel warm and fuzzy. And I said, it's the same with embalming or cremation. People don't wanna know, "Okay, so you sliced and made an incision into my dad. Now, how much blood came out? And can you tell me about this? And what fluid did you actually use? And did you sew or did you use a needle injector on his?" People don't want to know all those specifics. They want that end result of somebody looking better than they did in death at that moment of death. And they want to know that they were cared for in a nice, respectable way, just like cremation. They don't want to know exactly how that all breaks down and how you cremulate and the bones get ground. They don't want to know specifics. They want to know generalized information to answer some of their questions to get the end result of cremated remains. So that's my Taco Bell analogy. It's the best thing I feel like I've ever
I
come up
love
with.
it.
It makes
That's
my
legit. I was actually
it's
gonna
the
ask,
same
can I steal it?
thing. Oh,
Of
you
course
can
I'll
say
give you the
yeah,
credit.
because I think it's so true though. Like, there are so many things we do in life that we want the end result, but we don't want to know the whole process. Either it makes us creeped out, we may not want the end result if we knew the whole process. Like, I'm sorry, but giving birth to a child, I had to really not think about what I had to do to get there, because that whole middle part, like,
The
it was
birthing
like, all right,
part.
let's get pregnant, and then I'm kind of tied into the end
But then you
result.
have the doctors who ask the mothers, "Hey, do you want a mirror?" And they say, "Sure," and then it magically appears from the ceiling.
F no. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
good. Like, I'm good. So I think, it's that you want the end, you want the warm and fuzzy, but the middle process, you don't need to know every single little detail. Like, "Hey, your dad pooped. Hey, I had to do this. Hey, I had to," like, they don't wanna know that, but they wanna know some. And they wanna know answers to maybe questions they've had, like, "Hey, my dad had an autopsy. Was there something different you had to do in embalming because of that? And what happened to all his organs? Like, why do you do this?" But there's so many misconceptions, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just they don't know what they don't know. And so we get asked, "Hey, so why do you take organs out when you embalm?" We don't. We don't take anything out. We put together. We are repackages. We put them all back together after an autopsy. We put them back together after accidents. We put them together and make them whole for one last viewing, one last moment. And people think, though, that we are destructors. And so it's trying to just rechange the thought of what we do. But that's why so many people are wanting to get in this business. It's 85% female almost at mortuary schools right now. And it's first generation of kids who, I say kids, but they're adults, who have not worked in funeral homes. They have no exposure except for maybe a warm and fuzzy going to a funeral. They don't know the full aspect to what we do, but they're there. They're there because they're interested in, hey, Kari, I've watched you on YouTube for 5 years. I'm going to mortuary school now. And I have those people, and it just makes me cry when I see them and see it come to fruition. that they get licensed and they're so happy and they love the business. And it's like, holy crap, I've known you through all of this and you got interested because you saw a video or you went to a good funeral and then you came to all the social media and you've watched, different people. And it's like, that's a beautiful thing. That is what is bringing more people to the business that needs more people
That's one of
in
my
it.
favorite.
And we need,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I have a frog in my throat. I never get those. It's one of my favorite. Good thing I can edit. That's one of my favorite things to get from people. I had a show in Logansport, Louisiana for a festival, and someone drove 3 hours to see me perform, and afterwards she has just finished mortuary school. She left a career. She found me after
Mm,
her husband died, and had changed her careers because she needed some place to really channel her grief and give to others. And she said that it was the videos that inspired her, and her driving 3 hours to share not only the show.
is it
Yeah,
wild?
it was so amazing. And I tell people, and I know you believe this too, but I tell people who are, avid supporters and followers, I'm like, you do not realize how just clicking a button like a follow or a heart or any type of just subtle acknowledgement, streaming a song, you don't realize just the impact you have on the creator, on the
Mhm.
Karis and on the Nathans of the world, because though we cannot respond to all, we acknowledge and we recognize, and we are so grateful for it. And I hope, and I know it's resonated with a lot of people, but I hope it just continues to. And I'm sure, like I said, you say you think the same.
Yeah. Well, I think that word is perfect, like acknowledged. Like you're acknowledging that I'm here and that my content matters in some way to you, whether you just thought I looked nice and I made you smile that day because I said something silly or whatever it may be. It's nice to feel acknowledged by the work that is put in because it is not, there are people, like we said, that make a lot of money being on social media and doing what they do. It's a lot of work and good on them, but I'm just trying to put out good little content about funeral stuff and help people know their rights and help people feel empowered. And it's nice to see the tick go up just because it matters to somebody. And that's, I think, what we want at the end of the day. Everybody does. You want to matter to somebody and be heard by somebody else. Like I try and respond to as many comments as I can. It's kind of at the point where I can't respond to all of them on YouTube anymore, but I try and still go in and like spend half hour here or there just responding, even if it's just thanks, 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 thanks. And I'm surprised by the people who say, oh my gosh, you commented back to me. You don't realize how many videos I comment on and nobody responds to me. They're like, it's amazing that you would actually take the time to do that. And I'm like,
I know.
what? People don't do that, and that surprises me. Like, why put out content if you're not trying to create a relationship with the people that watch your content?
Right.
And maybe that's just me because I'm
People pleaser.
a connector well, yeah, I'm a people pleaser, but I'm just a connector and I like to do nice things and acknowledge people and take the time for people probably more than I should, but yeah, that is just me, I guess,
Yeah.
in a
Do you
nutshell.
have, I mean, your primary, I'm assuming every creator, it seems, has the platform, and the platform for you that is really your main, I don't want to speak for you, but a focal point would be YouTube. Would you say that?
Yeah, that's really where I started, and then because I listened to Gary Vee, if you
Me
don't listen
too.
to Gary Vee, gotta oh, he's just amazing. I like him yelling at me. It makes me
Seriously, that's what happened
and
to
I
me 2 years
direct
ago. He
that
was talking to a conference of women, and he said, "Go post 3 to 5 times a day on TikTok." He said, "81% of you are going to leave here and not going to do it, and you're dumb for not." And I did it, and that's the video that went viral.
and it's crazy because, I mean, he's true and he knows his stuff. Like, it's his like he says, it's his business. I love that he started from nothing and has done this, cultivating a business since he was a child. I mean, it just is ingrained in him to do this, and he said, "You may not believe in the social media or not want it, but you have to exist there if you want to grow. And I'm like, damn TikTok, because I did not even have TikTok on my phone forever. Like, I was not going to do it. I did not want any more rabbit hole places that I would give any energy to that was outside of my kid. And finally, I was like, okay, I have to. I have to get on there and have some kind of a presence, even if it's just reposting. But the darn it of it is like, okay, well, I got to film this way for YouTube and then this way for TikTok. And then it's got to be 1 minute for this platform and 2 minutes for the, like, it's insane because, and I think they do it on purpose. So you can't just take and cross post one thing across everything. But so I've had to kind of reformulate how I do some of my videoing to film it in different ways and to find 1 minute stop point because that's how long YouTube shorts are. And just, flip the camera and then re-record it sideways for YouTube posting. And then, so that part has been hard. I did get a social media girl who just helps me. I send her all the posts and she goes in and posts them and does some commenting. I had her do that for a while. That'll be ending here soon. But I'm just like, sometimes you just need support. I'm like, I think the people who do a lot of social media are single and they don't have kids or something because Jim and me, I don't know, and don't work or something because I'm like between teaching, between working at the funeral home, between everything, I'm like, I can't keep up doing that much social media on my own without neglecting the rest of my man or my kids or whatever. So I think it's a hard world to navigate. And a lot of people don't realize how much freaking time it takes to be a content creator and to do it to the level that it can be your income and can be your kind of full source and stuff.
Yeah, you are right. I had I had two people commenting on top of me to keep up with all of.
Oh,
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. I just,
it
I
is.
think it was awesome to stumble upon you because, you've been at it longer than me, not only with your licensure, but also your time on social. And, it's admirable to me that it's also been really therapeutic, to be honest with you. Not that I enjoy the fact that you've experienced like getting pummeled too, but it makes me feel, I don't know. I mean, when you're going through shit, you sometimes feel like I'm the only one experiencing it, So to hear that you get
Yeah.
the Karen in the comments too, is kind of gratifying. I don't know. It's just good.
Well, no, it really, like, I struggle. I'll tell you my gratification moment at school, teaching for the college I teach for. I feel like I am failing constantly. I'm not doing things exactly how I need to. And then hearing from one of the students, like that about two other professors, they were like, "Man, they don't seem to know that." And I was like, and so it was like, it's terrible of me to think, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, other people are not on their ball too." Like, it is nice to know that other people don't have all their poop in a pile also all the time, and that it's not like, I think we always think everyone else is doing it far better. I see other people within the funeral, social media, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, their posts are great, and they have this, and they do this, and they have," and it's like, but they're thinking the same about you. And once you finally realize that, you're like, oh my God, it feels good to not have as much pressure on yourself because everybody's kind of in the same boat. You're never going to be posting as much as you want. You're never going to engage as much as we're always feeling like we're
So
failing
you
in
feel that
some
too? Do you
weird
feel the
way.
dread right now of what's
All
my
the,
next video?
uh, um, Some, I mean, like, I can't keep up with the demand for, like, there's just no way. I don't have enough time in my world to do it. I have lists, like, I have lists upon lists. I'm looking up at my whiteboard that has papers of lists, like checklists, because I, of course, type up all my lists and stuff all over the place. Yeah, and I'm like, I- my goals for 2022 is hanging up because I haven't even printed off my goals 2024 yet to hang it up. So, like, that's where I'm at. Like, I get behind on literally everything because I just get consumed by just trying to stay afloat. And then you feel like you get sat on because the kids get sick or this happens or that happened, or you just have a busy week at the funeral home actually doing work. And it's like, hey, at the end of the day, I actually have a job and I have to give my time to that job when I'm there. And I don't have time when I'm there to always like, hey, I got to go shoot a quick video, or hey, I got to do this, because it's work and you're working and you're in it and you're doing it, and you don't think about, oh, I got to video every single freaking thing I'm doing at work, and I just don't do it. And so then I'm like, oh, damn, I'm out of, videos. I need to go batch, and I batch record my 2 minutes. So I'll do the topics. I'll pick a bunch of topics. I'll type out some notes for them. Some of them I do more, not script, but I have to research more, like, Viking funerals. Not something I know of off the top of my head, because guess what? They don't send them out on the boat and shoot the arrows at them. Made up for movies.
Oh,
So
really?
what is an actual?
Dang it.
Yeah,
So I
sorry to.
see that was going to be something I was going to say is like, we don't know what we don't know. And
Yeah.
sometimes as a human being, we give out information that's wrong. I would love constructive criticism. And I think I said that in a video.
Yeah.
So damn it.
Well, they did like once in a while, but if you think about it, how hard it was to build a boat, like an actual vessel back then. I mean, we're talking nails, board, it took forever. So if they were setting them afloat every time a Viking died, it's not
So
feasible.
sad.
It made good for like Michael Douglas or whoever in the movie that did it, but it wasn't feasible. They did funeral pyres sometimes, but more often than not, from what I've researched, is they just wrapped them, buried them with their sword and stuff, and had a normal old burial, but they put a lot of crap with them. And sometimes they'd get a local village girl that they would rape and then kill and put her in the hole too, because that seemed good.
Yeah,
But,
that sounds like it adds to the celebration.
oh
Jeez.
yeah, right? Yeah.
Is
There's
that real?
nothing
Like
like a,
that's, I didn't know that part either.
yeah, it not always, but it was something if you were of a certain level, like you needed a companion to go with you to Val
Bahala?
Val
Oh,
Valhalla, yeah. So it was this whole thing, yeah. So, some of that I need to research because it's not right off the top of my head, and I wanna make sure I hit certain points. So I'll have kinda notes that I look at and go from. Others, I'll just jump and quick do on the fly. Sometimes people will ask me questions, and to me, it's easier just to do a video to answer an email even, which I started doing. I do that for text. Like, it's easier for me to shoot a quick video and send it than it is to text, and I didn't know that was a weird thing. And um my man's niece,
love it.
she called it pulling a Kari now, because she's like, "Oh, she's pulling a Kari," because people don't do that, I guess, but that's how I respond to stuff. So, like, I was in a group chat with a couple other male funeral directors, like Brian and Ryan, and like other John and Ben and stuff, all these social media guys that I've done some videos with. I did that all the time, and finally I was like, "Oh, guys, I didn't know that wasn't like something
That
people
is
did. I'm
awesome. Now
sorry."
you
And
get
I'm
you do the voice memo text, right? Like, do you,
no, like, we're talking
well,
full
I'm
videos
asking if you
here.
maybe transition down instead of just text message. Like, I'll do the audio.
Most only to
Okay.
some people, but I still just bust out the video. I'm like, I have more than a little bit of information to say, and I am too busy right now to stop and, like, physically text you, and my talk to text doesn't always work, or it's a Mod Podge of what it actually says. So I wanna make it accurate, and I wanna make sure I explain what I'm saying and it's not misconstrued. So I would rather send a 30-second video than a text, just because sometimes it does come off wrong, or then they're responding going, "Are you saying this? Or are you saying" No, let me just tell you in one concise text video what I wanna convey,
Let me
and
send you my
and we're
how-to
done.
for the morning.
It's
I
what it
love it.
is.
I think that's awesome because then they can see your face and that the fact that you're not mad. Because have you seen the video of I saw it last night, so it might still be new, or maybe it's old as hell. I don't know. But this guy says how someone with anxiety reads texts, and then it says, "Thank you, period.
Oh my
Are you mad at me?" It's like anything someone responds with, it's like, "Are you mad at me? Oh my God, who died? Oh, and are you mad at me?" That's funny. I don't know why I thought of that, but
that's
I did.
so
But
every like TikTok or whatever about anxiety, or the person who cleans a lot because their mind is a mess or like all of them are me. I'm like, every one of these are me. All of them, me. I'm like, they made it just for me, right?
I
Just for me. Me and the, 182,000 other people that watched it. But,
It was just you.
just me.
I think the funeral
Little.
profession would be a great, Lexapro commercial is what I always joke about.
Oh,
I always
God.
Hey, I know that you have, time is of the essence for you, and I wanna say that for you to spend it with me means a lot. So, I
Thank
look up to you, I
you.
admire you, I thank you for
Oh my
showing up,
gosh.
because you showing up like you do for so long, it encourages me to continue to, because it's hard,
Thank
it's tough.
It is hard. Hard to show up for work every day. It's hard to show up for social media every day. It's hard to show up for all the areas that we give so much of ourselves for other people. And it is often very thankless, and often we are fighting an uphill battle against people who are throwing rocks. And that is hard to keep at it and to keep doing it and to keep positive and to keep a good personal mindset of ourselves and everything. I think it can get really debilitating in a lot of ways. So,
You're
yeah.
right. Well, it means a lot to me, and thanks for all that you do for so many others. And I look forward to chatting with you again, and we can come up with,
Yeah. At some point, I could come to visit
yeah,
you and come to a show and stuff.
we can come up with
At
cuss
some point.
words and
I'm good at those. I'm good
that's
at
awesome. Well,
it.
you're
No
you're
problem.
amazing, and thank you very much for all that you do, Carrie.
Thank
You
you.
are incredible. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
I
Appreciate it.
will.
Thank you, Kari. You do you for listening, for showing up. I meet you here where you are, wherever it is that may be, whether this is a season of growth or a season of sadness or a season of grief or a season of contentment. I'm here, and I hope that you realize your love far more than you could ever know. I don't think you'd ever be told that. Be sure to check out all the links below. You are my label. As an independent artist, you me by clicking links. When you buy a mug, you have no idea what it does. Whether you think it's just you enjoying a cup of coffee out of it, it is continuing to keep this machine going. And I appreciate that so much. So until I see you again, whether it's at 198 or on one of the socials at Nathan Morris Music or at a show, which you can check out nathanmorrismusic.com. I will see you soon. Take care.